Tonight, President Biden's first comments after struggling on the debate stage against Donald Trump. The Supreme Court ruling potentially affecting hundreds of January 6 rioters and severe storms threatening record holiday travel. First, President Biden, less than 24 hours after his poor debate performance, fired up on stage in North Carolina.
When you get knocked down, you get back up.
A stark contrast to last night. Today, President Biden trying to reassure voters, acknowledging his age, admitting he doesn't debate as well as he used to. Top Democrats, including former President Obama, rallying behind him. Donald Trump criticized for repeated false statements, taking a victory lap in Virginia, seizing on Biden's rocky night. Rachel Scott with the fallout. Also tonight, the Supreme Court ruling potentially affecting hundreds of people prosecuted after the January 6 attack on the U.S. Capitol. What the ruling might mean for the special counsel's case against former President Trump as we await the decision on presidential immunity. Terry Moran at the Supreme Court. The images coming in, first responders on the scene of a horrific crash outside New York City, the car slamming into a building. The former Uvalde School District Police Chief indicted on child endangerment. Charges linked to the deadly mass shooting at Robb Elementary. A second officer now under arrest, Maria Villarreal in Texas. A shark attack reported off Florida. The victim bitten on the arm and taken to the hospital. Severe storms on the move this weekend from Colorado to the Northeast. Heavy rain, damaging winds, and hail from Washington, D.C. to Philadelphia, New York to Boston. The system threatening the start of what could be record holiday travel. A Southwest flight from Portland, Maine to Baltimore taking off from a closed runway. The FAA now investigating. Boeing's troubled Starliner now docked indefinitely at the International Space Station. What the company is saying about returning the spacecraft and its two astronauts back to Earth. And America Strong tonight, the surprise send-off for a beloved teacher. The students making sure she retires in style.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening. It's great to have you with us on this Friday night. I'm Whit Johnson in for David. And we begin tonight with the race for the White House in the wake of that first presidential debate. President Joe Biden's poor performance, halting and stumbling at times, and former President Donald Trump's repeated false statements. The two men frosty with one another from the start. No audience in the room to break the tension. Today, a very different Joe Biden showed up at a campaign rally in North Carolina, acknowledging his age, but in a fired-up defense, insisting he can do this job. At his own rally in Virginia today, Donald Trump doubling down on his attacks, taking a victory lap. Tonight, in public, Democrats are rallying behind the president, but in private, there are major questions and concerns about whether their candidate is up for the job. ABC's Rachel Scott leads us off tonight.
Tonight, before a cheering crowd in North Carolina, President Biden acknowledging his shaky performance on the debate stage, but vowing to press on in his campaign.
I don't walk as easy as I used to. I don't speak as smoothly as I used to. I don't debate as well as I used to. But I know what I do know. I know how to tell the truth. I know right from wrong. And I know how to do this job. I know how to get things done. And I know, like millions of Americans know, when you get knocked down, you get back up.
Biden seeking to reassure his supporters and control the wave of panic sweeping through the Democratic Party after his repeated stumbles during the debate.
Making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Donald Trump piling on.
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either.
Today, the Biden team admitting the president had, quote, a bad night.
Listen, we've got 130 days, I'm counting, until Election Day. 130 days. And this race will not be decided by one night in June.
Publicly, top Democrats declaring their allegiance.
I will never turn my back on President Biden.
Step down after the debate performance last night? Should he step aside?
But privately, A different story. One Democrat in Congress calling Biden's performance a disaster. Behind the scenes, questions about whether Biden should quit the race so another Democrat can run. Late today, perhaps trying to put that talk to rest, former President Barack Obama weighing in saying, "Bad debate nights happen. Trust me, I know. But this election is still a choice between someone who knows right from wrong and will still give it to the American people straight and someone who lies through their teeth for his own benefit." Last night didn't change that.
Donald Trump.
On the debate stage, Trump's performance an avalanche of lies and distortions. He continued to defend those convicted in the riot at the Capitol on January 6th and repeatedly dodged questions on whether he would accept the results of the coming election.
If it's a fair and legal and good election, absolutely. I would have much rather accepted these, but the fraud and everything else was ridiculous.
Tonight in Virginia, mocking Biden's debate performance.
Joe Biden spent the entire week at Camp David resting, working, studying. He studied very hard. He studied so hard that he didn't know what the hell he was doing.
But today, the president insisting,
I would not be running again if I didn't believe with all my heart and soul I can do this job. Because quite frankly,
there in North Carolina, the crowd was with him. Yes, you can, they chanted. Yes, you can.
Rachel Scott joining us now. And Rachel, as you noted publicly, top Democrats standing behind President Biden, but behind the scenes, some serious discussions about the way forward.
There are real concerns within the Democratic Party tonight and questions about whether President Biden should step aside. But sources close to the president tell me tonight there's only one man who can make that decision, and that is the president himself. And so far, he's showing no signs of backing down. In fact, I'm told he's eager to get back on the debate stage in September, Whit.
All right, Rachel, thank you so much on the campaign trail for us. Now to that major Supreme Court ruling limiting what charges can be brought against defendants accused in the January 6th attack on the Capitol. The decision potentially affecting hundreds of prosecutions, including charges against former President Trump. ABC's Terry Moran is at the Supreme Court.
Tonight, a potentially big win at the Supreme Court for some of the January 6th defendants, including Donald Trump. By a 6-3 vote, the court significantly limited the reach of one of the charges brought against many January 6th rioters in a ruling that could impact the election interference prosecution against Trump. The case was brought by former Pennsylvania police officer Joseph Fisher, who stormed the Capitol on January 6th and was charged in part with obstruction. The specific law used by the Justice Department makes it a crime to alter or destroy documents and records to be used in official proceedings, or otherwise obstruct any official proceeding. That law, passed after the Enron scandal, was originally written to prosecute business and financial crimes. The question at the court, could it be used against those storming the Capitol who were trying to obstruct the certification of the 2020 election? The court's answer, no. Chief Justice John Roberts, writing for the conservatives, and liberal Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, ruling that prosecutors went too far and cannot transform this evidence-focused statute into a one-size-fits-all solution to obstruction of justice, adding that prosecutors must prove a defendant somehow tampered with documentary evidence. Justice Amy Coney Barrett, who joined the liberal justices in dissent, pushed back, acknowledging that the law was written in the business crime context, but writing, admittedly, events like January 6th were not its target. Who could blame Congress for that failure of imagination? But statutes often go further than the problem that inspired them. Trump heralded the decision on social media, calling it big news for the January 6th defendants he celebrated on the debate stage and whom he's vowed to pardon as president.
Those people have been treated so badly. So we're asking, based on the decision, they should immediately be released, immediately, the J6 hostages.
Tonight, the Justice Department says today's decision will not affect the vast majority of January 6th defendants' cases, and it will take appropriate steps to comply with the ruling. Of the more than 1,400 January 6th defendants, 52 have been convicted on this charge. 27 are currently serving time. No one, including Fisher, was only charged with obstruction.
2 of the 4 charges in the election interference case against Donald Trump rest on this law, but special counsel Jack Smith says they're still valid because of Trump's efforts to use fake electoral certificates, documents in his alleged scheme. But it all may be moot on Monday when the Supreme Court is expected to hand down its ruling on Trump's claim that he is immune from prosecution.
That major decision next week. Terry Moran, thank you. And we have breaking news outside of New York City tonight. First responders are on the scene of a horrific crash in Suffolk County, New York. Authorities say at least 4 people were killed, 9 hospitalized when a minivan crashed through a nail salon late today. The images just coming in. Here's ABC's Phil Lipof.
Tonight, a deadly crash into a building on New York's Long Island. First responders racing to the scene in Deer Park, where a car slammed into this nail salon. At least 4 people were reportedly killed.
Requesting a rush. Multiple patients got into a building.
It happened just after 4:30 this afternoon at Hawaii Nail and Spa. At least 9 people were injured, several critically, and reports of victims trapped inside.
Give me whatever extrication tools you have. I have approximately 3 people trapped underneath the vehicle inside.
It appears a motorist drove through the building, all the way through the building.